Today's lesson is about finding slope. Now we're talking about lines and graphing lines and everything, coordinate planes, x's and y's and all that. So the first thing we have to do when we're trying to graph lines, we need to find out what our slope is, okay? Now, when I talk about 2 points, I'm talking about your normal points like 2, 1, right? Where you're given, that's a point on a graph. So remember, your first number is your x, and your second number is your y, okay? So keep that in mind. When we talk about 2 points, it means you're given a line. So if we were to draw a coordinate graph, right, then our line would be something like that, you could just say, okay? And when we're given 2 points, there would be any 2 points that are on the line, and you need to figure out, in this instance, what our slope is, okay? So let's talk about that. There's a formula for finding slope when you have 2 points, and that formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? It's a very simple formula to use. Make sure you have this written down. If I were you, I'd write this down every time you start doing finding slope from 2 points. You have it written down on your paper so you know what it is. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? So I'm going to rewrite that to the side here. And that way we can have it when we need it, okay? So when we're given 2 points, let's start off with an easy example. We have 2 points. Let's do 5, 3, and 2, 1. Okay, so those are 2 points. Now, remember, a point is x, y, right? So we have x here, and y here, and x here, and y here, right? Now, if you look at our formula, we have a 1 and a 2. Now, all that means is on here, okay, is that the 2 and the 1, the 1s will go on your first point because it's your first point. That's why you put a 1. Now, these numbers here, they're not exponents because they're not up here, right? They're a subset. That's what that means. It's a subset. So that means that if you look over here, because this is our first point, that's our first x. This is our first, and this is our first y. So that means this is x1, y1. That means this point over here would be our second point, which is why this is x2 and y2. Okay, so we have x1, y1, x2, y2, okay? So now to find our slope of these 2 points, we simply plug it in to our formula. So what do you have first? You have y2. So look at your y2, 1, okay? Minus y1, which is 3. And that goes over x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is 5. Now it's just simple math. 1 minus 3 would be negative 2. 2 minus 5 would be negative 3. Now we know when we have a fraction here, if we have a negative on top, a negative on the bottom, that ultimately makes it a positive. And that's our slope. That's all there is to it. You don't have to make it into a decimal. You don't have to divide it, okay? If it's a fraction and it's reduced, that's all there is to it, okay? Very simple. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. A very simple concept. Let's try another example. Negative 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay? So once again, if you want to, you can label it x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, if that's going to help you not get confused, go ahead and do that. All right? So let's set it up. y2 is 7 minus y1, which is 4, over x2, which is 6, minus x1, which is negative 2. Now, this is very important. Your minus is still here with the formula, but you also have a negative. So you must put, okay, the negative with the 2, okay? So it's minus negative 2, minus negative 2, okay? That's just minus 2 minus negative 2, okay? So do the math. 7 minus 4 is 3. And then when you do this, 6 minus negative 2. Remember, a minus and negative turns it into a positive, right? So that means you add, and 6 plus 2 would be 8. Our fraction is reduced. No more left to do. Simple as that. So remember, keep the minus in the formula, add the negatives when you need to, okay? Eight, 9, and -2, 3. Okay, so set it up. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so our y2, 3, minus y1, 9, over x2, which is -2, minus x1, which is 8. Do the math. 3 minus 9 is -6. -2 minus 8 is -10. Okay. Now remember, if we have two negatives here, it becomes a positive, and we can reduce this. Okay. We have 6 on top and 10 on the bottom. We know that both of those numbers can be divided by 2. If you divide each of those by 2, your final answer would be 3 over 5. And that's our final answer. Let's do one more example. It's a pretty simple concept. Once you start getting the hang of the formula, it's not that hard. Last one. -5, 4, -2, -4. Okay? Now, don't be worried about the negatives, okay? If you need to use a calculator, you can use a calculator. Not that big of a deal, all right? But your negatives are important because they do tell where your slope is, and if it's a positive or negative, and where it is, okay? So, x1, y1, x2, y2. Now, you don't have to keep doing this if you don't want to. All right, if you got it, you got it. Great. If you need to, keep doing it. y2 is -4 minus y1, which is 4, over x2, which is -2, minus x1, which is -5. Now, I'm putting parentheses around this just to separate it from it being the other minus, okay? So it's not multiply, it's just, it's a -5 minus -5. I'm just separating that, okay? Do the math. -4 minus 4 is -8. -2 minus -5. Remember, minus negative turns it into a positive. So -2 plus 5 would be +3. We can't reduce either one. The negative's on top, there's nothing on the bottom. So your slope remains negative. And that's all there is to it.